Hey there. Welcome to the first Plotcast podcast, a Plotcast. The general idea of this is to introduce you to music of different genres and styles. Each show will have a different theme, such as music of 1973, French classical, or folk. But since this is the first one, I'm just going to give you a snapshot of the music I like to listen to. In the title you should see a link to a Spotify playlist. You'll need to open that up for this to work. The idea is, you pause my beautiful face while you listen to the songs I'm talking about. Don't worry, I'll give you a moment's silence to do so each time. Now on to the music. I've selected a few songs from my Spotify to sum up a few eras and styles close to my heart. It would be amazing if after the show you would go away and listen to more of the bands and styles, but of course, it's your choice. The first song you'll see is On the Bright Side by Never Shout Never. I discovered this song the other day and I truly adore the instrumentation and almost klezmer-like themes all the way through. And as an added bonus, it has a nice little theme about life. After this is a song by Passenger called The Wrong Direction. This song was one of the first I ever covered. It's sweet and catchy and very typical of the artist's style. The third song of this section is Blue Piccadilly by a band called The Feeling, whom I was very into around the same time Passenger was famous. You can pause here. Now we move on to some older songs. As crazes come and go, there's one thing I just can't shake: my love for the next four bands. For most of my childhood, all I knew was music from the 60s to the 80s. I was brought up with Jeff Lynne and his amazing Electric Light Orchestra. Then my mum introduced me to the Boomtown Rats and 10cc, and I found my own way to Duran Duran. There are already too many songs in this section, but I could have also included the Beatles, Depeche Mode, Queen, Lindisfarne and many others. I once again recommend you listen after the show. Without further ado, here's The Lights Go Down by ELO. I was introduced to Biffy Clyro by YouTube's Jack and Dean. I'd never heard anything like it. The music really speaks its brilliance for itself in my opinion, much like Foals, a band I was shown by a friend nearly a year ago. London Thunder really drags you into the music. The effects and harmonies are entrancing. Yet what they are doing is really quite simple in the world of music. Next, there is Bastille. I feel obliged to put Bastille in this list as this was one of the first bands that I got completely obsessed with. I knew all the songs off by heart, but in doing that I found out that they use the same chord pattern almost all the time. Their music is still impressive and well produced. I'm a big fan of the vocal exploitation. And now to Codaline, my latest obsession. The blend of folk and pop punk is sensational. I literally cannot begin to summarize this band as each of their songs is different and unique and brilliant. Pause now for this section's music. Now, pop punk. I may slightly feel like I've sold my soul to this genre. The songs I have chosen here are a gentle introduction to a very big, very strange genre of music. Panic at the Disco, led by Brendan Urie, could possibly be the best band I know of. Like Codaline, their music is very varied but always genius and catchy. Their latest album, Death of a Bachelor, entered the charts at number 1 in February. I would recommend listening to Vices and Virtues and Pretty Odd when starting off with this band. After them, their influences, a name I'm sure most of you know. To my surprise, last year I found out that Fall Out Boy did more than hard screaming music. There's a lot of debate over which era of Fall Out Boy is better, but I prefer the more recent works. I recommend Folie à Deux and After, Save Rock and Roll is a good introduction. The tour of Save Rock and Roll did not only re-establish Fall Out Boy and promote Panic at the Disco. The band 21 Pilots played their first major gigs on this tour. Tyler and Josh have managed to mix spoken word and pop punk together seamlessly. The final song of this section is by the fathers of pop punk, My Chemical Romance. This track is from Danger Days, The Fabulous Lives of Killjoys. I recommend this album before others as My Chem is the most hardcore of these bands. Pause here. Next there is an insight into folk, starting with the legendary Bellowhead. They're known for having 12 members who play multiple instruments each. Unfortunately, they are splitting up later in the year, but I was privileged to see them live along with their support act Plotcast and Cobblers Club, who were almost as good as the main band. The section is ended by a band I recently discovered called Lossie and the Lads. Pause here. I'm afraid that's all I've got time to talk about. Feel free to listen to the rest of the songs, a few more snapshots of good bands and artists. Also, I do really recommend listening to more of these artists and genres I have talked about if you enjoyed what you heard. See you next time for a show on folk. Bye.